That's the other thing. I know that customers sometimes will want to, they get super excited. It's like, oh my God, I want to get it now. Can I get it later? What is it going to look like? You drew a line, send me the drawing. I want to see it. And then they'll just give feedback constantly. And the thing is that they don't understand your craft the same way that you do. If you think about like the stuck up artist who says like, just let me work, right? Let me work and then I'll show you what I did. Can be a good thing, right? You can say like, hey, I need this amount of space to actually work on this, right? Instead of just like trying to deliver constantly and getting feedback. Here we go. What's up, everybody? It's me, PencilKarate, also known as Richard. This time I inverted it. Here we're back again today to do the damn thing we always do, with a new format, right? Having a little discussion, heading into some drawings, and then finish off the night with some video games. Been going through Monster Boy. It's actually been a lot of fun for me. The last time I got stuck for like 30 minutes, which was a little bit ridiculous. But then I found out what I had to do and I cleared it in like 5 seconds. So wonderful stuff there. I'm pretty sure it was hilarious. Friday was a lot of fun. Had a good time during the weekend. I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly what I did. Probably some resting. I have been working on creating like a contract of sorts for whenever I have like customers. And that's been taking longer than I thought it was going to take. You know, the last topic that I had last week, you know, I'd said, you know, you could just have like a small contract or agreement. And even though that's totally fair, I felt like I needed to have like a bigger scope, like a larger, more, I don't want to say larger, but I will say more granular contract that goes to the specifics. For 2 reasons. One, I don't know, I'm just always a little bit worried about who's out there who's trying to take advantage of me. And then the other thing, which I think it's actually quite understandable, but maybe those doors don't need to be so closed so tightly. And the other one is to try to make it as professional as possible, just so I can give people that experience, right? Professionalism is actually very important to me. And what is it that I offer people, right? I try to use some of my like corporate experience that I've had from the past in dealing with customers now. So that actually leads into a situation that I was in. Actually started on Sunday. This situation was actually somebody hit me up for a commission through Fiverr, which is like, you know, great. I got a commission. That's wonderful. I guess the downside of it was that on Fiverr, I haven't really been up to date. Like all the stuff that I started working on, the contract and all that, I didn't update any of those terms and conditions. I actually did my Fiverr like 3 months ago or something like that. Maybe less, maybe 2 months. And I totally forgot about it. I was like, nah, no one's gonna like, maybe a couple people look at it, but no one's gonna ask for anything. And lo and behold, I had a customer that wanted to upgrade their logo for their YouTube channel. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do it. You know, in full transparency, I set up the commission at $10. Like that's how long ago this was. That's how much, so how little thought I put into it. You know, and just full disclaimer to anyone out there who doesn't know, this is me in my first time in a long time getting back into commissions, getting back into like knowing what to ask customers. Like I didn't have a lot of experience or depth in my experience before. A lot of the experience that I did have, or at least a lot of the knowledge that I had, was either secondhand or something that I read online. Which a lot of the advices that they have on there are actually pretty good, but it's just sort of like, it's not the same as sitting down with somebody and explaining your situation and then them kind of relating back with the story. So what I wanted to do today, This first portion, if you can see the title, is setting expectations with customers. And this is something that it's basically the moral of the story on my end, right? But I want to go ahead and kind of layer this out before I actually go into the story. And I want to go ahead and read an article that I found. It has some really good principles in it. It's not, extremely like in depth. I don't know if it's super relevant as far as like the industry, right? But the principles in it are actually like quite, you can apply it anywhere, right? So let me go ahead and change this. Hopefully everything is, everything's in there. Okay. So this is from Lucid Press. This is written by Rachel McPherson. Is all the way back 3 years ago, July 26th. So 7 guidelines for managing client expectations. If there is anything that I guess a lot of us are afraid of, or a lot of people that, kind of learn real quick, it's like managing expectations is probably the biggest way for you to succeed with your customer, right? And for you to feel good about the engagement that you do. I'm gonna skim through some of these things, kind of get to the points that I see on here that I think are pretty relatable, at least to me and people who might be beginning, and then kind of evolve that and roll that over into my situation, and then we can go from there. So it says managing clients' expectations is not an easy task, especially if you are a designer. As much as you want to keep clients happy and live up to their expectations, things don't always go according to plan. So I'm sure there's someone somewhere out there that's done, a couple commissions here and there, have had that happen, right? Where people have certain expectations. Even if you said, hey, this drawing is, like in my case, $10, and on Fiverr, I said exactly what I would do. Going into the conversation, they already come in with their own expectations, and really having that conversation with them of like, literally, what do you expect from this drawing? What do you want? And so, at least in my case, my customer didn't exactly know what they wanted, right? And I think if you're going to be responsible, or if I'm going to be responsible from now on, I should press a little bit harder. It's like, well, please go think about it. Bring me back examples of what your expectations are, or maybe let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about it. Not just like say I'm up for the task and then figure out that, all along that you probably didn't want to do that. So, setting expectations is part of like good communication, right? So while designers rely on creativity to deliver great results, clients sometimes undervalue the effort or attempt to control the process. It's a cycle that can make the most ambitious projects crumble in a matter of seconds. This is why maintaining good rapport with your clients is instrumental to a project success. Although there is no one-size-fits-all solution, we have some ground rules that can help you manage the client expectations and take your collaboration to a whole new level. And so I think it's really interesting. It says there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and I think that's accurate. It's the one-size-fits-all would be closer to like experiences, right? You having more knowledge on different types of scenarios and what is it that you can do as a response, right? So this is very true. If a customer, and going back to the beginning of it, like you're out here, you have experience, you have knowledge, what you do has value, but then the customer setting their own expectations, and then you either countering expectations or saying, okay, you want 4 images. This is how long it's going to take. This is how much the scope of work it's going to take. Instead of saying like, yeah, let's go for it, right? Instead of just saying a yes, saying that's possible. This is how much it's going to take. Now, here's the thing. I can understand. It's like, yeah, Richard, you can say that, but when it's time, and this happened to me, you got a customer in front of you, you got to make that moolah. You can't just sit here and think like, I'm going to scare them off. I'll be really honest. If the money is that important to you, then that's totally fine. I don't know your circumstances the same way you don't know my circumstances. I can't judge anyone for what they choose to do or they don't choose to do. But that being said, if the money is not more important than actually getting a satisfying work done, and if the customer is satisfied with their experience and you're satisfied with your experience working with them, then it just might not be worth just being extremely agreeable and setting some boundaries and guidelines, right? Education can really set you up for success as far as like letting your customer know how, well, this is how it goes. And if you don't know exactly how it goes, there's typically two ways that you can go about it. You can go out there and learn it the hard way by going in through situations. No one wants to go through the negatives, right? This is why a lot of people really get scared of that, right? The feedback, or like if a customer's disappointed, if like you just want to feel like you're doing a great job. You know, their directions might be different. You know, there's just so many things. Just, you know, it doesn't hurt to lay that out there so they know what you're capable of. You might be even surprising your customers in some instances, right? They might have something in their mind and they're not really great at communicating it. So actually goes into the next point. So communicate your ideas clearly. Communication is an integral part of any successful project. To maintain good communication, keep it simple. Communicate your ideas without using professional terms or slang that your clients might not be familiar with or understand. So in this case, if I say, you know, maybe they don't know what line work is, right? And I say, well, you know, Mr. Customer, this is typically how my project goes. There's a sketch, there's line work, then there's a coloring phase, and then there is a shadow phase. Each phase can take around this or that amount of time, depending on like the scope of it. Again, if you're so new that you don't know how much time anything takes, my advice to you is take on your own personal project, time yourself per section, see if you have any different levels on your own process, right? Maybe on creating backgrounds or whatever you got to do. And try to give an estimation. Always try to give yourself enough time to make sure that you're like doing that. Also, another thing that I really learned is that maybe there is a communication vocabulary difference, right? So letting them know exactly what it is, what means, and taking that as an opportunity to get your customer up to speed with like some industry terms or X or Y might be a good thing for them, right? They'll feel probably more empowered, and then will feel probably a little bit more comfortable with going to somebody else. Sometimes the issue is that there's no standardization, right? The way that you do your own work, it's not going to be the same as another person's work. And so at least you're teaching them how to work with you, right? Just in case if they ever want to come back. So set clear boundaries. No matter how smoothly we try to meet the client's expectations, there will always be a few bumps on the road. For example, sending over your first mock-up, clients will nearly always request changes. And this is so true. This is very, very great. It says, no matter how smoothly we try to meet the client's expectations, there will always be bumps in the road. For example, after sending over your first mockup, clients will nearly always request changes. This is very true. So sometimes it's really great to let your customer know. It's like, doing this can actually slow down the process. Maybe you want to put into your terms and agreements that there will be extra fees for X amount of changes that you do, right? Because you can just end up going back and forth forever, and then what the amount of time that you spent on a job could just blow up exponentially. So this is an expected part of successful collaboration. If, however, they continue asking for alternatives time and time again, this may lead to revising the entire design, extending deadlines, and causing frustrations for both sides. While it's perfectly normal to listen to your client's feedback and answer their needs and requirements, falling into the never-ending cycle of revisions will not have a positive effect on the project or your relationship. To avoid this scenario, set clear boundaries, be transparent about what you can achieve, and how much time you can dedicate to revisions. Otherwise, a client might undervalue your knowledge and skills and eventually stop trusting you. And this is actually particularly true. Sometimes them going back and forth and you not really detailing everything from the beginning, saying like, I'm okay with doing 3 revisions, but after 3 revisions, I'm actually going to require like more, a fee, right? A flat fee for every time that we do a revision. I think it's important to actually, it's better for you to lay that out everything, right? Don't think about this like, you know, how you think in dating. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to just unload my whole life and to this other person, or they'll just reject me. In this case, this is actually business. Trickling in information is probably not the best, especially if we're talking about the terms and agreements of your commission, right? So Triv, you're asking, what do you think about the whole under promise, over deliver way of thinking? Okay, you're doing swell. Started the week. Excellent. Thanks. I'm happy that you're doing all right. Hope you had a great weekend. And I love the idea of under promise and under deliver. But I'm going to outline what that means to me. And I guess we can all find our own different ways of under promising and over delivering. I would much rather under promise in quality, right? And then be able to deliver more in quality. But in order to do that, right, I don't want to over promise in time, right? So you would have to kind of find a way to make your customer satisfied with the amount of time that you're either requesting, or the amount of money, right? If they're saying, hey, let's say I want to do a great job, and you say, I'm only going to do, I don't know, $20 commission, right? Just to put an arbitrary price out there, $20 commission. It's only going to be a sketch. Maybe I want to feel like I'm doing a better job just by going that extra mile. And then instead of doing like the outline or a thumbnail or a rough, I can put a little bit more detail into it, right? And then people would be a little bit more satisfied. Now, this is something that I heard earlier today, which is really interesting. And I agree with it. We are sort of, how do I say this? Putting more effort into something, sometimes will not pay you the way that you think that you should be paid, or what you're going to get paid. So if you ended up doing, let's say, going back to the example, a sketch, right? A beautifully rendered sketch for $20, and you think, you know what, man, I should probably get paid $45. And you feel like you're cheating yourself, right? Because your quality of work is like, you think it's higher than what you're getting paid, then I think that you need to readdress what's going on with you internally. And then either the next time that comes around, set the expectation, hey, I actually charge $45 for this amount of work, because you feel like you give that much more, right? If you want to ask for the customer for extra money, it usually doesn't go very well, but you have the option to do so. Find ways that you can actually give the best quality of work, and make sure that you give yourself enough time, I guess, is what my philosophy is for under promise and over deliver. I don't want to say you're going to get stick people and then all of a sudden they get the Mona Lisa. I think that's actually not setting proper expectations, but make sure that when you're giving expectations to the customer, you're actually doing it as a service to them and also as a service to you. If I say that I'm going to get a job done in a day, and it is a job that requires 5 to 6 hours, 8 hours to complete, unless I'm, I guess, working for somebody else, or it's super rushed, right? And I have to drop everything else that I'm doing. I'm probably not going to go ahead and say that I can deliver it in a day. I'm probably going to say, give me minimum 2 days, give me 3 days, and then go from there, setting those expectations and then being firm about it. That's the other thing. I know that customers sometimes will want to, they get super excited. It's like, oh my God, I want to get it now. Can I get it later? What is it going to look like? You drew a line, send me the drawing. I want to see it. And then they'll just give feedback constantly. And the thing is that they don't understand your craft the same way that you do. If you think about like the stuck up artist, which says like, just let me work, right? Let me work and then I'll show you what I did. Can be a good thing, right? You can say like, hey, I need this amount of space to actually work on this, right? Instead of just like trying to deliver constantly, getting feedback from the customer. If the customer requires, that you want more communication, maybe have a conversation about that. Ask him, what do you expect as far as communication? And then say, I'm able to either do that or not do that. And then whatever you both decide on, hold each other to that, right? And then don't do any less or any more. And if you feel like you can do more as far as communication or as far as revisions, then, you know, over deliver in that sense. If you feel like it's in your best interest or you feel like you want to do it. So I guess that's my in-depth like thought about that part. Great question. Thank you for asking it. So let's see. Okay, so the third point they have on here, and remember, this is for a design firm. This isn't really like necessarily for like commission artists, but again, I think that they have some really good points on here. So define your communication channels. Usually this isn't really an issue for us. Like wherever the customer contacts us through is where we end up doing a lot of that. Maybe you want to move it somewhere else, right? You want to move the communication via email. You want to move it to your cell phone. I mean, that's totally fine. Choose an avenue, stick to it, right? So it says, the easiest, most efficient way to nurture a client is to keep them regularly updated about your progress and any changes. However, thanks to the inbox overload we all face, communicating with your client via email may no longer be enough. Build trust with your client by letting them become an integral part of your project. Follow its different stages, comment, give feedback. Here's a comparison of lists of best project management tools that give your clients a clear view of what you're working on. So I guess another way that I can say this is not only will you find a good opportunity to communicate with a customer, maybe it's best practices for you to say at different stages, I want to set up intervals, check-ins, right? I'm gonna say like, hey, I can deliver this job to you in like in 2 days. Like, let's meet up 2 times then, or 3 times if needed, right? And then just give me a go ahead because it has to go to completion. Some people, you might find that some customers become very controlling with their feedback because they are experiencing some form of fear. So the fear could be from their lack of experience. They may be experiencing fear because they don't understand the process enough. And I think we're incumbent as the service provider to inform the customer, hey, this is what you can expect, and then have them be walked through the process before you actually build any kind of trust. So you're a professional and you're working with a team. Usually that's going to be an art director, right? In this case, something that's really interesting that you can kind of draw parallels between is that your clients are essentially in a way art directors, right? And you need to treat them as such, and at the same time just kind of show them again, walk them through what's possible, right? They may not be as experienced as you are, right? And it would be wonderful if we can go and say, hey, I just got here and I want somebody to, like, just say, hey, just go with it. I trust you. And you're like, boom, I did it. And it's like, perfect, right? And then some of us might worry a lot. It's like, okay, what is it that you want? And then the customer is like under communicating, right? So I think whoever your key contact is, just make sure that you're just kind of walking them through the process and talking to them, making sure they really understand, they feel safe, and feel like you're like the professional. In other words, you're between the two of you, you might be the subject matter expert. That doesn't mean that you are an expert in the field, but you probably know so much more that you can actually talk to them and explain to them what is it that's happening. So state your payment terms. Whether you need more resources to complete a project or you've run into an obstacle that you must tackle before moving forward, there are many reasons to extend a project deadlines. I find this very useful, and again, communicating that in the beginning, like the possibility of your deadline needing to be extended needs to be communicated, like from the beginning. Find out what's the best way for you to know or to determine. It's like, this is probably going to extend it. Now, I'm pretty sure this is something that I'm not going to get down anytime soon as far as hitting deadlines. As being somebody who's relatively new to all of this, but it's something that I should definitely keep in mind. So if this happens, it's better to ask your client to pay in parts rather than the entire sum. It makes it easier to add late payments and fill any gaps before it's too late. Make sure you state your payment terms clearly and as early as possible so it's a win-win situation for you and your client. And then it won't come as a surprise if you guys are really getting involved and you're like on like 3 hours before the commission is supposed to be delivered, and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, I need more money, or the payment changed. This is actually something that I normally do. Again, over communicating, don't treat this like, you know, you're dating somebody and you don't want to scare them off. It's much better if you just lay it on them, let them see and make a decision for themselves if they want to be your customer or not. And if you feel like your approach is a little bit too heavy-handed, then, you know, find better ways to communicate it for you and for your customer's sake. Remember also, not every customer is the same. Everyone's coming in with different levels of experience. So, and many a time I wish I had asked for 50% before and the rest after completion. Far less worrying of not getting anything altogether. And I second that sentiment. You guys will see, again, my story is coming up in a second, of my situation, what happened. And I really agree with that. And I think that asking for 50% before and then the rest after from your customer is something that I don't think is bad, right? And if the customer is hesitant, then it probably means that you didn't instill enough trust when explaining what the process was like, right? Them not really being very familiar with what you do, how you do, what's expected. You know, sometimes I would say, and this is something I guess you want to convert a sale right on the spot, right? Then that's why we say yes a lot of times. But you know what? Sometimes it's worth maybe telling a customer, think about it. Here's all the information that you need to know. I need to get paid 50% up front. Like any additional work, it's going to take this long. And any more changes, it's going to be this much. Like, this is what you're looking at. This is what you're looking for. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Fuck. Holy shit. Okay, so and I think it might be a sign of that, right? Because they might not know what's going on or what to expect. Some of them might feel like, oh my God, am I making a mistake? What does this mean? What does this term mean, right? Trying to keep everything like easy to understand for somebody who's not a part of this, right? It might not be a professional. Us as artists, right, we can commission each other and it'll be actually relatively easy because we have an understanding. Okay, it takes them a week to complete this. All right, no problem, right? But sometimes customers also get very focused and they don't know if you have they don't understand maybe the concept of you having your own projects or having other commissions and how that shares like time from you, right? I know that a lot of artists spend a lot of time performing and doing art, and they do 12-hour days, and that's great, but you know, not all of us work in those terms. So setting those expectations are actually very helpful. Okay, so there's a little piece here that says make it personal. Basically so I'll read it, but I don't know if this is actually entirely relevant, right? Oh, thank you. I had some stuff. It says, make it personal. Small gestures can do wonders. If you're working with a client who's willing to pay for your services and appreciates your work in time, you should nurture the relationship by going above and beyond. For example, send in a personalized thank you card. Whether you provide advice that might give a positive impact on the brand, invite them to a fun activity, or take them out for lunch. It will encourage ongoing collaboration in the future. And as far as making it nice and talking to them and thanking them and being genuine about that is probably, like, again, it's a good practice. And I'm sure that a lot of us like are pretty good about that, right? So this is part 7. I think this is something that doesn't really come up for a lot of us to do commissioned. I don't know. I know I'm working on it. So it says have a detailed contract. A clear and concise contract is a major prerequisite to successful communication and collaboration with your client. Your contract should cover the following items: expected working hours, procedure for feedback and revisions, project milestones, budget, and payment. So keep in mind that besides delivering a contract to your client, you must carefully review it with them to make sure they understand and agree to all the details. And this would be more or less if you don't have a contract and you're just communicating with somebody through text, I would maybe have a small blurb that you can maybe pre-prepare that you can copy and paste as far as like the terms, right? This drawing might take this amount of time. I can get it to you by this amount of time. I would need half payment first, half later. This is what the process is like. We can have these many meetings to make sure these are how many revisions I can do. And again, it might seem like there's a lot of information, but it's better for the customer to have all the information they need and for you to answer any questions they might have than for you to spoon feed this information and then they find out that they didn't agree with the payment terms from the beginning or didn't agree with the revisions part of the agreement, right? Maybe they need a couple days to think about it. Maybe they want to talk with somebody to see if it's a good contract. Totally fine. That they have the freedom and liberty to do that. And then the reason that you're doing that is, again, I know that we want to close the sale. I know that we want to have a commission. We want to make a good impression. But the best way for us to make a good impression is by also having the customer respect our terms and agreements, and then making sure that we have an understanding when we're working together so they can get the best benefit from us, right? A rushed piece of work is probably not going to be the best thing out there, especially if you're feeling upset that you didn't get paid properly or that you're really getting taken advantage of, right? Setting those boundaries in the beginning can hopefully open the doors to having a very long, successful relationship with this customer. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the camera here. Okay, so let me tell you guys about what happened today. So actually, it started on Sunday. So on Sunday, I was contacted by someone who's a YouTuber, right? So terms of service. My bad. Yeah, and you know what, I was thinking about you when you were talking, Crystal, when you were talking about what was going on with your terms of service. I really related to that today, right? So I love how you just threw bro there at the end. My bad. Okay, so yeah, I had a customer reach out to me on Sunday, said, hey, I'd like to get a revision. This was something that I threw on Fiverr maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I set an arbitrary price. I was just like, let me get my name and throw my name in the game, throw it in the hat, get that going. What ended up happening was that I forgot about it, right? And got contacted on Sunday. And it was basically a redraw of whatever their drawing is, and then I was gonna do it for $10. And I was like, I already had like the terms and conditions, which were very, very loose. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna spend more than 30 minutes on this. It's gonna be colored, no revisions. That's it, right? Terrible terms, just like, I don't know, like I just thought, somebody pays $10, they pay $10, and that's it. It's 10 bucks, right? So, oh, hey, hello, hi Alyssa, how's it going? So what ended up happening was that, we got in conversation and I said, yeah, I can do it, but I didn't do any of the stuff that I just talked about, right? I didn't say, hey, this is gonna, did you read that it's only going to be a 30-minute drawing? Did you read that it was going to only be like 10 bucks is not any more, any less? Did you read that I'm going to just redraw what you did? Like, so I didn't do any of that. I didn't put any of those things. So we ended up doing so many interactions, right? It took him like a day to think about it. It came back and he's like, well, can you do a sketch of like, to see what it would look like? I had asked them, hey, show me maybe examples of something that you want. They just gave me a vague description. It's like, I wanted it to be more realistic, but also have like a cartoony feel. It's like, I totally get what you're saying. Do you have any examples? No, I don't have any examples or anything like that. But can you please draw something for me? And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. All right, okay, I did it. Big mistake. I should have maybe communicated. Well, it's a big mistake, first of all, because it wasn't anywhere on my freaking Fiverr that I should not had, that I wasn't going to do any like sketches for free. So I basically gave away a sketch for free. They look at it, the kid's like, okay, I love it, that's fantastic, but maybe do a different version. And this is when everything started going like downhill. I'm like, come on, Richard, don't be a piece of shit. Just do it. It's the first commission you've gotten. It's at least $10. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Just go ahead and do it. Pop it out. All right. Excellent. The kid sees it. Oh my God. Yeah, this is like crazy. Let's go. I don't like it as much as the first one. Can you change it again? And I'm like, okay, hold on. So I just want you to know, kid, like at this point I already did like 2 or 3 revisions. I'm like, just know this, like normally is me, I charge $75 like starting out, because this is like a 5 to 7 hour like project, especially with all the revisions. If it was me drawing for myself, I could probably get it done in like 4 hours, 3 hours. And this was like a next day type thing, right? Where it's like, hey, $10, I spent 30 minutes. No, at this point I had spent like 3 hours on the fucking thing. So, but I didn't say it. I didn't say anything until this point, right? 3 hours into it, I communicated, hey, this is usually this much. If you look at the ad says it's only 30 minutes, no revisions. The kid went down the spiral of like anger. It's just like, he was so disappointed. Mind you, the kid keeps saying like, can you please change, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? I'm French. I don't understand English very well. It's hard for me to communicate. That was also part of what probably fueled this whole thing. Someone who got very excited, saw that I could do it for $10. I did a sketch. They really liked it. And there was a communication barrier because of our languages, right? So there was like no way that I could really communicate like 100,000%, like everything. But I kept my composure. I stayed professional. I used like I snipped right parts of the original gig. I put it on there. I started trying to course correct to set expectations of like, hey, this is going to be done. The kid got upset. I said, hey, okay, if you're really disappointed about this, then you can go ahead and cancel the gig. You can either cancel the gig, and you can have the sketches. That's another, like, I just wanted to get rid of the kid at that moment because he was just being very unpleasant. But that was also another bad thing, because I'm taking, again, 3 hours of my time that I took to invest on this, and I'm just giving it away, right? Just to make sure that someone is pleased, so I don't get a negative review and all that. And I can just think about how many other people also go through this type of situation. Hence why I'm talking about setting boundaries, and then, how I'm going to actually correct this moving forward. And I don't think I'm going to be really afraid of like putting it. I'll adjust it if I'm being just too stringent, but just to kind of get the point. So I did the final revision. I let them know, hey, look, like this has actually no revisions. I've already done like about 5 different revisions. I just want to complete the work because this is what I'm actually supposed to do. So reluctantly, I suppose, I don't even know, I guess the kid was using like a translator or something. Some rude words were actually thrown at me, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to continue to do the work. Let me finish it. Once the work is completed, I'm going to send it to you. I worked on it for maybe another like 2.5 hours or so on. Did the coloring. It was like 3 o'clock over here, 11 o'clock over there. So they're like, oh my God, like I'm going to sleep. Changed it, did it, showed it to them. They were like, oh my God, this is amazing. But can you change this other thing? I'm like, okay, I just want to be done with this. Okay, this is great, but this looks weird. Can you change that? And again, it's like no boundaries. And I understand. One, it was someone who was young. But a lot of this happened because I didn't set boundaries or expectations. I didn't hold them to it because that was the original vision, right? If I say, hey, this is how much this is going to cost, this is how much this is going to go, and then they say, no, but I want you to do more. It's like, remember, you agreed to X or Y, and then that's what I could have done to protect myself. and to also make it a more enjoyable experience for the customer instead of them having think that I changed it up on them, right? Because I didn't really communicate as much on the front end. And this also happened because I was unprepared, right? Not being prepared enough, not communicating enough, not knowing exactly what I was offering caused these issues for me. So, end of the story, the customer is very satisfied with the product. They're really happy, really excited. I think they're going to put it up on their YouTube channel. He's an amazing accordion player from what I can see. Great stuff. So, the pros of what I did in that situation that I think, I need to think about it. Not everything was negative. I did do some things that were actually good that I consider. And this one is that I finished a job that I committed to do. Even though I gave him the option to back out, I continued to work on it, even though the kid was just like angry and upset, right? The other thing was that I was professional throughout the whole thing, even though at one point the client was angry and upset. If I would have maybe given more like structure, maybe I could have held the customer accountable to it, but it is what it is. And at the end of it, I actually thanked them for their business, and then I wished them success on the YouTube channel, which seems to be growing currently right now, right? So the cons: I didn't set expectations as a scope of work. I didn't explain the time that was going to take to actually produce. This also happened because I had an ad up that I had grown past. I no longer do drawings in an hour and then I'm done. Like, now I spend a lot more time, as some of you might know. I didn't set expectations on the amount of revisions. And I didn't actually set expectations on when it was the most appropriate to communicate. 70 messages in 20 minutes is like insane. It's crazy, right? Again, you probably wouldn't get this with someone who's a little bit more mature and experienced, but that's crazy. So, okay, so the cons, the other thing is that I continue to deliver on different versions instead of saying, no, this is, again, holding them to what was the original job. And then just to be done with it, I delivered it before time. It was supposed to be for tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I don't want to wash my hands of this, and I delivered it. And it doesn't seem like the client was actually dissatisfied with the product. They seemed to really love it. They gave me 5 stars. But I am probably not going to repeat that like that again. Like, just the engagement and how I did that, right? So okay, so what will I do in the future? What I'm going to do is really just know how much my time is worth. Like, understand that, hey, I do something that's very specialized that not everybody can do. At one point, the client really expressed how much they loved my art and they wanted it to be my art. They didn't want to go to anybody else. And also, they wanted to save time. They didn't want to go through the whole process all over again. So that means that I had something of value that the customer wanted from me, right? So the next thing that I will do next time is actually educate my customer on the process, which I mentioned many times, and how all this works so they can have a sense of security once I tell them. Sending the terms of work before doing anything together, like having them look at that, having them agree to it, and then moving forward instead of just trickling in like, hey, this is what happens in X or Y scenario. More or less just, let's have a whole negotiation and conversation. And if it's too much for that client, then in my case, I don't think that I'm going to overreach to try to work with them, right? If they're not really feeling it. So, also, another thing that I'll do is that I need to remind the client of what the original agreement was, just in case they want to change course, right? If they want to change the drawing, they want to change the demeanor, they want to change, like, hey, just please remember that this is like what we originally agreed to, right? And then they have to uphold their end of that agreement. And then also give clear instructions on when to get feedback. So that would be like check-ins and when to communicate. Not all customers are the same. Some will give too much feedback or ask for too much feedback, or some won't want to give any feedback and to deliver something that either love or hate. So that was my story. I hope that helped you guys out in some way, right? So Yeah. So, oh, good lord, that kid. How old was that kid? 7? I have no idea. I have no evidence. So I hope they weren't 7 because that would have been really weird. So thank you. Claps to me though. Thank you. Oh, thank goodness for the 5 review. Yeah, for sure. So, so I titled this, funny enough. It's like, this is how not setting expectations made me $8 after 10 hours and 8 revisions. So at the end of it, even though it was $10, Fiverr took a 20% of the fee, so only made $8 at the end of it. So I think this was, I don't regret doing this. If the customer is satisfied, I learned a lesson that I'm probably not gonna do again. Like, that's fucking insane. I'm not doing that shit again. Even if people don't like really like it. And I don't think I'm gonna, I think I'm just gonna remove myself from Fiverr entirely, because I've also heard of other people that just like don't like it, right? They say that the prices are too low, and it's really, it seems like it's a, I don't know. If you use it and you feel comfortable with it, that's totally fine. But like after that engagement, maybe there are very specific types of customers that want to buy from me in this situation. But after that engagement, like, the kid got some decent work for not a ton of money, like not much at all. And again, I understand he's from a different country. He worked for it. $10 for him is maybe a big deal, especially now during COVID. I don't know of his life situation. I don't know any of that. But I know that where I live and in my situation is like, this is me trying to have employment. I don't have insurance. I don't have so many things that other people might get if they have a minimum paying job in the area that I live in. And it might be heartbreaking. Maybe they did the most. Maybe $10 to them is a lot of money. And maybe I could just not be as heartless and just do it for them. But at the end of the day, even though we're doing art for the sake of art and it's a great way to express ourselves, if you're trying to start a business that is you offering your services as an artist, then I think you have the right to go ahead and name your price, and the customer has the right to agree to it or not. And that's what it goes down to. It's not personal, it's just business. So that being said, I think we can move on to like drawing. What do y'all think?